Hey guys, in this video I'll be teaching you how to become sub 1 on Megaminx. This video will be more of a guide than a tutorial, meaning that I'll be showing you what you should learn rather than actually teaching you everything because that would take too long. If you're just getting started with Megaminx and you aren't really close to sub 1 yet, I'd recommend checking out my beginner Megaminx guide. It's a bit of an older video, but it's pretty good and I still recommend all of the content in it. I'll put a link to that video in the description, but let's begin with this video. First, let's quickly talk about hardware. There are three main cubes that top Megaminxers use. The first one is the Yoo-Hoo V2, which is this cube. I personally prefer this cube the most. It's only $13, and with a good setup, it becomes really good. The next option is the Dian V2 or the Dian Pro Mega. I don't have either of those, but those are also excellent options, and a lot of top Megaminxers use the Dian. The last option is the Yushin V3. It can be a really good Megaminx, but it does take modding and quite a bit of setup and break-in to become good, so not a lot of people really use it, but it still has potential to be good. Okay, now let's talk about Fingertricks. This is going to overlap with the beginner video a little bit, but there are some Fingertricks that are more common in intermediate solves that you should be familiar with. So of course, we have the basic 3x3 Fingertricks, like RU turning, pinch F moves, thumb F moves, everything like that. Basically any finger trick that you'd find in a 3x3 PLL, you should be able to do on a Megaminx. But some finger tricks that are more specific to intermediate and advanced Megaminx are a U2 prime double flick. This finger trick is actually optional. You don't have to use it if you don't want to, because there also is another way to do U2 prime, which is called Ado. And you take your index finger and you push across like this to do a U2 prime. Personally, I prefer doing this over U2 prime double flicks. I think it works better for me, but some people prefer to use these double flicks instead. Even if you're comfortable with doing U2 prime double flicks, I'd still highly recommend learning how to do Ado U2 prime. Not like that, there, like this, because it comes up a lot and it's extremely useful. Another finger trick is Beidou, which stands for backwards Ado. It's basically doing an Ado, but backwards, as the name implies. This one is pretty difficult to get used to, and it doesn't come up too often. It mostly comes up in full PLL and full OLL algorithms. So this finger trick really is optional because of how hard it is to get used to and how uncommon it is. But it's still good to know if you want to learn PLL or if you just want to be able to do this. I can't really do it too well, but it looks something like that. The next finger trick is BR and BR prime. I like to do these with my middle fingers like this. These finger tricks come up in S2L quite a bit, and they're also used to backsledge. So if I have last pair that I want to force EO on or avoid a dot case with, I can backsledge really quickly without having to regrip, and it's just generally good to be able to do BR. Lastly, you should avoid doing L moves. Doing them isn't the end of the world, they're not that bad, but they're definitely a lot slower than R moves, and you should try to avoid them when possible. However, a lot of the times it is better to do L moves, and you will have to use them occasionally, but try not to use them too much. You want to aim to complete F2L in under 20 seconds. The reason I combine F2L and star is because you can start on F2L before you finish your star, and a lot of top solvers choose to solve a 2x2 block first, rather than the entire star, or a 2x2 block with some star edges, but not the entire star. So for example, I see that this pair is really nice. I can pair this up in just one move. So instead of solving my entire star first and losing track of where this is and probably breaking it, I can instead try to make this 2x2 block first. I'll make the pair, solve 3 star edges, or it doesn't really matter, you only need these two, but might as well solve that one, and then solve the pair. So now I have 3 star edges and a pair solved, and now I can rotate over here, and all the pieces I'll need are going to be probably on this side because I was here and I didn't see them here. So I rotate here, pieces I need are right here, and I can finish my star, and I have a head start in F2L. Quite a few top solvers use this technique where you solve this pair before you solve the entire star, and it works pretty well. It helps you transition into F2L more fluidly so you're not looking around for pieces, and it also makes your solves flow a little bit better. However, it is a little bit harder to do because once you have this 2x2 block, you can't do insertions like this, and you have to instead align the edge and insert it like that. Okay, so what should you look for in inspection? Ideally, you want to try to plan at least 4 star pieces or 3 star pieces and a pair. So in the example I did at the start, I did 3 star pieces and a pair, and that worked pretty nicely. However, if there's no easy pairs, you can go for 4 star pieces, or if you can, plan all 5. The star to F12 transition can be pretty difficult because there's a lot of F12 pieces and there are a lot of places around the cube where those pieces can be. I'd recommend really trying to look ahead to your first pair while you're solving your star, or taking a mental note of where pieces are. Okay, here's an example of star to F12 transition. I'm going to solve the star just pretty normally, but while I'm doing that, I'll be creating mental notes of where my first pair pieces are. So right now these are already set up nicely. So I'll go ahead and solve these star pieces like this. And then while I'm doing that, I see these 2 F12 pieces. That would be a good first pair. And also these 2. So I'll keep solving my star and just remember that this pair is like generally in this area. And this corner is here and this edge is here if I want to use that instead. And then I'll go ahead and solve my star. And then after I finish that, these stayed in roughly the same spot, so I can go straight into solving first pair like this. Oops, like that, and move on to the rest of F2L. Okay, now let's talk about solving actual F2L pairs. This is where you can get a lot of improvement from because there are 5 F2L pairs and you can save a significant amount of time on each. So the most important thing to consider when you're doing F2L is efficiency. And this is a common theme in Megaminx as a whole. Efficiency is the most important part of a solve. It's not TPS. Look ahead's pretty important, but the single biggest factor in your Megaminx times is efficiency. A lot of top solvers don't even turn that fast. They're just very, very efficient and have pretty good look ahead. So efficiency is definitely the most important thing, and you should prioritize this first. So how do we actually be efficient? What I see a lot of people do with F2L on Megaminx is to solve an F2L pair, for example this yellow-blue one, they'll take both of these pieces, move them over to the slot, and then solve it like that. I don't remember how this was set up exactly, but let's just say the pieces are roughly over here away from the slot. Instead of moving both of these pieces towards the slot, then pairing them and then inserting, we can instead pair first, which is normally much more efficient, and then do insertions to put them in the back. So for example, for this pair, I'll pair it up like this, which is pretty fast, it's all 2gen. And then instead of bringing this pair around and inserting it like that, I'll instead use a back insertion, which looks like R2 prime, U2 prime, R2. And that's a lot faster than having to bring around the pair and rotate and insert into the front. If you're able to insert into the back, you're saving moves and you're also improving your look ahead because you're looking at the unsolved pieces and not the solved ones. So there are several pair insertions that you should be familiar with. One of them is like this back R2 thing. Also be able to mirror it on the left. Another one is for something like this, instead of bringing the pair in and then inserting, you can instead set up the slot using an F or an F prime, then insert this into the moved slot, then move everything back, and that's faster than having to bring the pair over. And lastly, this is a little bit more advanced, but you can break your star to make pairing pieces easier. For example, for this pair, I can break my star with an F prime, pair this up in one move, then insert it like that. There's way too many F2L cases to cover, so I would recommend watching example solves from good solvers and seeing how they solve certain pairs that are in various places around the cube, as well as doing your own untimed solves and just experimenting with how you can move pieces around and pair them up and insert them. Untimed solves and example solves are a great way to practice efficiency, and you should definitely do it if you're looking to become sub 1. Okay, now let's talk about S2L. The first thing is the F2L to S2L transition. One technique that you can do for this is to start on S2L before you finish F2L. So in this example, I haven't finished F2L yet. I still have this pair in the back that needs to be solved, but I'm looking around and I don't see the F2L corner. But what I do see is this edge, which is the edge that I always use to start S2L. So instead of trying to find the corner and then solving F2L, I can instead just start on S2L by solving this edge. And then I can either, after that, I can either try to find the F2L corner, or I can continue doing S2L. I still don't see the corner yet, so I'll do S2L, I have these two pieces that I can make a pair with and insert. And let's say now I happen to see this corner. Now I can pair this up and insert, and I have a head start on S2L. A lot of the things in F2L also apply to S2L. You want to be pairing pieces before actually inserting them into the slot. But there are also a few other things that you can consider in S2L. So for example, you can always make the pair before getting the quote-unquote star edge. So for example, I just made this pair and it needs to go here, but I don't have this edge solved yet. But that's okay. I can make this first, figure out where the star edge is later, and then solve both of them at the same time. So sometimes if you don't see where this edge is, you can just make the pair first and find the edge later. Another thing that comes up often in S2L is block building. So normally in a situation like this, I would solve my star edge here, and then solve this pair, and then solve this pair. However, I see that I can make this block in just one move, so I'll go ahead and do that. And then this edge is nicely set up to be block built like that. I have a block building tutorial that I'll link in the description, which you should check out if you want to learn how to block build. And again, just like F2L, you want to be experimenting using untimed solves and watching example solves to improve your efficiency, because efficiency is still the most important part of the solve. Alright, moving on to last layer. For look last layer is good enough to become sub 1, but you should stop using commutators for corner permutation. So for example, for this case, a beginner might do commutators like this to solve this case, but those are a little bit slower than learning algorithms, so I would recommend learning algorithms for all of the corner permutation cases. There are 15 cases, but the algorithms aren't that bad, and they're very good to know. This is also a good time to start learning some PLLs if you want. They're not necessary, but there are a lot of 3x3 transfers and just generally easy algorithms to recognize and execute that you can start learning if you want to get a head start in PLL. The best place to learn PLL algs from is James McDiarmid's cheat. I'll have that linked in the description, but it has all the best algs, and it also has the order in which you should learn them, because some PLLs will help you a lot more than other PLLs will, and it'll be best to learn them in the order of which ones are most useful. Now is also a good time to learn some alternate algorithms for look last layer, specifically those that influence CP and CO. So for example, here I have an EO case. The standard algorithm is f sexy f prime, but that gives me a 5 twist, which is generally not good. So instead, I can recognize that I have this bar here and this bar here, and I can do this OLL from 3x3, which is sexy sledge. And you can see here that we have these bars here as well. And then I'll do that alg on a Megaminx, and that will force these bars to become oriented corners, and now I have a 3 twist, which is much better than a 5 twist. You can use the same idea to influence corner permutation during edge permutation. So I have this case, for example, and normally the algorithm to solve this is this, but that gives me a 5 cycle, which I want to try to avoid. So instead, I can recognize that I have this block already made and do an alternate alg to preserve this block. So I can do the 7 mover from the other side and just do it twice, cancel into it like that, and that will give me at least 1 block. In this case, it happened to give me 2, which is really nice, and now I have a 3 cycle instead of a 5 cycle. So there are a lot of alternate algorithms that you can use to influence CO and CP. They'll take experimentation to find and maybe watching some intermediate example solves. I have a bunch of example solves on my channel that you can look at, and a lot of them I do influence CO and CP, so you can learn from those. Okay, lastly, I'll do one example solve and try to explain my thought process to hopefully tie everything together. So I'll start with a star. I can either start by planning 4 star pieces or 3 and a pair. There aren't any immediately obvious pairs. Oh wait, there's actually this one. I can make the blue-red pair in just one move. So I might consider doing the blue-red pair, meaning that I'll need to solve both the blue and the red star edges. The red is right here, the blue is right here. So I think I'll do that. I'll solve these 2 star edges, this pair, and then I'll try to plan another star edge as well. There's 2 back here. I think I can probably use the green one. So I'll insert the green star edge and move it over while also solving this pair, or just pairing it up for now, I guess. And then here, I'll just solve this block and then solve the star edge. And now I have a 2x2x2 block, and a star edge. So now I'll look for my other star pieces. I know my purple one is here, and while I bring it over, I'll try to find my yellow one. It's here, so I'll solve both of them like this. Right now I have this pair. This is not going to be very nice to solve because I'll have to take this out, then move it over, then solve it. But I don't really see anything else, so I think I'll just do that for now. While I'm holding the cube in this orientation, I'll look for my next pair, which is going to be this one, which is the most obvious one. So now I'll solve this pair, and I pair it up first, instead of moving them both way over here, because that would take a while. And then I use a back slot insertion to move this into here. And while I do that, I see this corner, so I'll immediately rotate over here to follow this corner and look for the edge. The edge is over here, so pair them first, then insert them. This time I'm going to insert using an F prime setup like that. And then I have this corner, I look for the edge, which is right here, pair them up like this. And then again, instead of bringing this over and then inserting, I'll do an F prime setup, insert, then fix everything. And that is F12. Now moving on to S12, I have this pair here. I'll just keep note of that for now. But I need to start on orange because that's where my S12 order starts. So I'll rotate over here and look for the pieces that I need. I have this one, I'll just solve that now. But right before I solve it, I actually see this first. I'll make this pair, then block build all of this at once. Now I move on to the next phase. Here's the block that I saw earlier. I want to preserve this so I can block build my S12. So I'll move it up here and then set up this edge, then block build like that. Next I have this corner, so I'll just need to find the edge back here. I can set them up like this, and then here I can do an F prime setup, just like an F12 to solve. Now right here I see these two pieces, but I don't see the pink blue star edge. So I'll just solve these two pieces first. And then while I'm doing that, look for the star edge, it's back here. And then I'll solve all of them like that. Then I'll rotate over here and look for my next pieces, which are right here. That's just like a 3x3 F12 thing. Now moving on, I have these three pieces. I'll just go ahead and insert this edge first, and then solve both of these pairs like normal. I have this pair, I'll solve like that. And then this pair, solving like that. Here I am using L moves because it's a lot better than like anything else, but again, you do want to avoid that. Okay, here I have this edge, which I could solve right away, but then I kind of get a bad case here with my last couple pairs. So instead, I'll actually pair this up first. This is a nice case that can be solved 2-gen, and then my edge ended up here. I can just solve it like that. This pair is not good, but I might as well just deal with it now instead of later. Solve it like 3x3, and then this one, also pretty normal. Okay, moving on to EO. Here I see that I have this kind of pattern, which when compared to a 3x3 is like this. So I know that doing F sexy F prime will give me at least one oriented corner, which is good. So I'll do that. I have my oriented corner. Do CO. And then here, I'll rotate over here. And I know that doing the standard 7 mover to solve EP will also preserve this block. So I'll just do the standard 7 mover. And then I'm left with a 3 cycle. Alright, that's it for this guide. I just want to stress one more time that efficiency is the single most important thing in Megaminx as an event. So definitely try to get very good at that. Thanks for watching and goodbye.